Mark, how are you today?
Pretty good. Ready to go over some backtest. Weather's nice here in Florida.
Weather's not nice in Tennessee. Equally ready to go over some back tests. So let's jump straight in. I sent you two tests today, and I'm going to share the screen. Let you drive.
Yeah. So I will kind of start out with saying that I am not an actual double calendar professional. It's something that I've been working on over time, but so this isn't my main area of expertise. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, just got it.
Yeah. So just in general, like what's already a little sketchy out to me from what I know about double calendars. So we'll look here, 8 to 10 max open positions and similar to unlimited positions, consider 15 delta shorts, max premium 7, unlike considered. So I can kind of talk about my philosophy with double calendars. So in general with double calendars, since you put it on and it's a risk defined trade, I think that it's curve fitting using any type of profit mechanics basically, and even like a stop loss, because kind of how I view it is once you enter, you've kind of baked the trade. And then blackout days, let's see what they have on this. So I don't know why they're excluding those.
Yeah, that
might. I don't think that's a fair assumption. Those
anytime you see two, that's right.
Massive blowouts in Trump in tariff talk time. Yep. So
probably wouldn't happen again, I imagine.
I mean, so I think it's fine to potentially filter those out, but then we have to understand that we're not actually going to get the results of what this is, and we want to size it differently. So that just tells very concerning with what that is, and we'll see how much it blows up the back test.
And people, the reason this is taking a minute to run is because it's floating entry. Mark, do you do a lot of floating entry stuff in your test?
So again, this is why I'm going to pick on it more. So it's if you're using this long short ratio, you're just really asking. So I think this is an engineered back test. I haven't physically traded this, but when I look at it with this long short ratio and you basically have the entire day to do it, I think you're kind of lying to the back test that you may have actually not gotten filled at that. I don't know what your guys' experience is actually doing this, but I'm a little skeptical depending on how much this executes to do it. How I would actually recommend doing this, and this is how I like to test calendars, is I would do something simple that's 9:45 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., and then 3 p.m. So you're getting a more accurate assumption of what's happening through the day, and then it's kind of checking in with what's happening. I would also say I do not like to size on a fixed contract because you're just curve fitting sequence risk. If a trade that wins on the really high VIX day could make your entire year. So I would say you should allocate, this is probably far too high. I don't know how much the debit is on this, but you should just allocate a fixed percent when you're testing it. Okay. So I don't really know why he excluded those. It doesn't look like it made much of a difference unless they're an excluded wide bid ask. Yeah. So first of all, I would not eliminate what that is. And then another concept in general, I didn't even see this, where it's in my opinion, you only get to have 3 filters, which is an entry mechanic, which is basically just a time. You get a sizing mechanic, which is basically a proxy of risk. And then you get some type of exit or mechanic, which could be a stop loss. And every additional filter you add, your credibility cuts in half. So 1 filter, 2 exit filter, 3 entry filter, credibility's 1/8 of what I anticipate for this. So let's continue to kind of break this up. I'm just going to get rid of the min VIX move, and I'll let them have long short ratio and they don't get a profit take. This will take a while because it's entry ratio.
That thing you just said, I mean, is one of the key. I mean, if you're going to have like a thesis of fix my back test, you'll notice every week we do this in perpetuity. It's going to be basically one of the ways you fix your back test is remove filters.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily against filters, but we need to draw some line of where we're going to stop. So, and we also need to use logic. So if you're like evaluating the overall performance of the stock market, you can't just use since 2008. Like you got to include, and the data would look drastically different if you included 2008 and 1999, and it would make you rethink holding equities. And the same thing kind of goes for a calendar, which going back to 2022, when something, I mean, this one trades daily, but, that's not as many occurrences as maybe trading like 15 zero DT trades a day. Okay. So when we remove, so this is just the multiple timed entry ones. That doesn't look like it hurts it. So this is mainly driven by the VIX down and the long short ratio. This is going to take a minute to go through, but we'll kind of see how it ends up playing out.
This is DC land is a little bit more, an option omega specialty. And the thing that I trade a lot of a very, very similar trade to this. And what he just did with fixing time, like set times, it will make your back test run faster. And it very well could improve it a lot of times rather than doing a floating entry. And so stuff like that, you can apply a logic to it and still make it speedier. And so
maybe we'll do this and try to, but like the main concept I want to do with this is like, let's only use a couple filters. So if you're using a long short ratio, you're basically seeking, because you're kind of trading term structure with the calendar, meaning like the front week and the back week will kind of converge. And then when the 14 comes off, that, float in between them, you should have realized it. So if you're trying to get the best possible entry with the long versus your short, that should be your only filter. The VIX shouldn't influence that. Like it doesn't make any sense based on the VIX going up, why, if you get the right ratio, it shouldn't make money. So I would say that's irrelevant. I don't like the profit take because, with a profit take, I'd want to see something where it's like 10%, 15%, 20%, 25%, 35%, where it's all linear of the profitability. And also on top of that, if we could get similar results to the 30% profit take with no profit take, it's way more valuable to just not have the mechanic on it because we're not, adding any variables into it. Okay. So again, with this one, like it actually looks okay. So, this is a lot more robust than I would have thought. My only thing is, we'll wait till this one loads where you can see we have 886 entries, but we're waiting the entire day to get that perfect long short ratio. So I'd kind of be more curious to what it looks like here. And then the next thing I'd kind of pick on is like slippage. So frankly, like a $6 option, there's no way on earth you're going to cross that bid-ask spread for a cent. So you have to consider we have 4 legs here, and how options are shopped is each individual option has a bid-ask spread. So like, I don't know what the minimum tick size is on Q off the top of my head, but there's no way it's that tight. A penny on a $6 option, a penny on a $4 option. And these, even though they're in the front month, are like not probably the most liquid things on earth. So I would probably say our expected value is 32 cents a trade. I think this would be closer to like 6 to 10 cents. So now this trade's looking like a 1 MAR, and I don't really like it very much. But yeah, I mean, you know me, but I would.
Qs are weirdly liquid. I agree with everything Mark just said, and the caveat would be Qs are weirdly liquid. Now, what he just said about the 28-day, this trade is going to lend itself to more slippage than not because of just the thing he said. Anytime you're going that far out, you just expect more slippage. It's just a straight heuristic.
I'm not the most informed on this, but like the other thing I'd really push back is like Qs, especially where most people trade them because they're probably not trading them on IB, are like a big pay for order flow ticker. like a big retail paid for order flow ticker. So if you show a mid price of 760, 764, and you get filled at 762, I would be really curious to what your results actually look like into the future based on what the back test said and what you get filled at. Cause like this is just a random quote, and what you get quoted at and filled at with pay for order flow on Qs, I would be more curious what that is. So this is more of like, you know, you can look at this, you'd have to run it for a couple months and be really militant about how close these are to fills, and then kind of decide. So, I mean, I like the structure of front month, back month. You're playing kurtosis, which is more moves inside of half standard deviation. So like the theory behind the trade, I don't mind. I would just say you got to run this. Let me know what the slippage looks like. But I think that this is a doable trade to have as something that's a double trade. I would also say that like, I think daily is probably overkill, because a lot of these seem to be, you know, pretty similar to one another. So like 590, 590, 600, 600, you know, I feel like, and you're taking the same expiry on a lot of these. So I would say you could probably be a little less redundant than trading it daily, which would just make it easier. But that's kind of where I stand with this.
Shout out Kevin. Good job, Kevin, sending that over. And Kevin's got another one. He was the second person to ever put a test in. So we're just going linearly through.
I'm going to say, like, if you could report back to us, like, definitely check this. But analytically, I think you did a decent job at making this. Now you just need to make sure executionally that it's in line with actually running this. And, you know, because that's where this could really break down, is whatever these assumptions are. I do think it would be slightly lower than this, because I think off the top of my head, 3 cents just sounds really generous. At minimum, it has to be a penny a leg. And I would say these longer legs are probably 2. So I'd probably say like 6 to 9 cents, but yeah.
Love it. Second one, we got an iron condor.
Yeah. So I'm already going to nitpick this one. First thing I see, actually, it's not as expensive as I think, but let's go to a little bit higher vol. Okay. So I would say it's reasonable to cross. So again, minimum tick size for condors or options under $3 is 5 cents. So first thing I would say is, like, even though it's a 4-legged order, I would anticipate kind of all of these costing a, 5 cent to cross it. So to start out with that, I'd say let's bump up this entry to 20 cents. Also, my other question on this is like, oh, that's per contract commissions and fees. Why does the closing fee get lower?
I think that's probably a tasty mechanic. So a tasty, that's
these people are trading on tasty.
Yeah.
So yeah, entry slip, I'd up that. That'd be the first thing I do. Other thing I don't like about this is min-vix of 14 is fine, but I'm struggling to see why this SMA thing is material, being that it's a delta neutral trade. So this seems like there's no causation with it or without it. So I'm actually going to run this with it, and then I'm going to run this without it, and see what we get.
And you would consider, just for those who are learning, I mean, basically a put spread might work for something like that. Something that's like a clear direction. Therefore you're playing.
Yeah. Like the logic makes no sense to me. So like basically the reason you use moving averages is to try to smooth out whatever set trend is. So like if you're only using a daily, like 5-minute, 20-minute EMA, you could get faked out because price has to move somewhere. So like a 2-day versus a 4-day would be a little more smooth because you're taking an entire day's data. So it would potentially show you a trend. And then on top of it, the fact that you've only got one time, like for a small account, I could get it that you're choosing the best time. But if this indicator worked, it should work at noon. It should work at 2:30. It should work at 3, basically all of those times. So we got 6.8% PCR without it, and then 27% basically with it. So yeah, I mean, so then my next test for this to see if that would work would be, oh, and you're excluding Mondays. Please explain to me why. You know, so you know what I'm saying? So it's like you're using a daily indicator and then one day of the week it doesn't work. It's like, again, your credibility is just going down more and more and more. So like, let's add in Monday. And on top of that, like one thing I would also do is if the 2-4 actually worked, we would need to take the SMA and, what else should work is, we'll be a little more generous. Like a 4-8 should also work, because if it only works at a 2-4, that's like big red flag of curve fitting basically. And then the next thing we'll do is like check time.
Is there
like yeah, go ahead.
I was just say I've got someone dying in the background, construction in the background. But one of the things that to play the part of someone pushing back and saying, "Well, Mark, are you saying that there's certain days that like you really have to, your trades have to trade every day to be valid?"
I mean, for a 0-day trade that's delta neutral, like,
yes.
Well, the thing is, it's like, okay, so here we still have, so it's half as good, and it's only twice as good as not the signal. So like, this is also a little concerning. But the other thing is like, you only have one time, so it's like you've chosen one time, you need this filter on. So it's starting to fall apart. And then the other thing too is like, so on average here, you're collecting like around $1.50 and your max risk is, $900 basically. So you're also filtering out a Monday or something where you have an outcome, of a average loss being 10 times larger than your average win, and then like what happens if I add in a 12:30 p.m. trade and a 2:30 p.m. trade. So, I'll let you keep your SMA indicator, but now I'm going to make you take more entries and we'll kind of see how you perform. Yeah. But kind of what I'm trying to do with constructing this is it's like, okay, like we switch your 2-4 filter to a 4-8 filter. It degrades performance. And now it's not that much better than not having the filter. And now we'll let you keep your filter, but we're going to add 2 more times. And the thing is, it's like, if that filter doesn't work at different times, then it's like definitely curve fitting. You know what I'm saying? And if that filter doesn't work when you go from 2 to 4 to 3 to 6, it's also definitely curve fitting. So basically it's like, I'm not necessarily trying to prove this wrong. I'm trying to say if it's robust, it should work at another time. If the signal is, so yeah, I would never run this. This is pure curve fit. It doesn't work. So like you get your signal and it falls apart. And what I would really push on people with this too is they'll say, oh, well, 145 works because the market doesn't move. And then like the price between the shorts and the longs is most appealing. But what I would push on that is like, okay, well, what happens when the VIX is higher? You know what I'm saying? Now you're taking it at, 145, you're taking the same type of position you would take at 3 p.m. when the VIX is lower. So this is pure curve fit. I guarantee you will hit this max drawdown within 90 days of running this thing live. Guaranteed.
Hey-o. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it, in general, trying to take away notes from this, like you're running things as much as you can and trying to get as many currencies as you can. And that's kind of the name of the game, especially with 0-day stuff like this.
Yeah, I think what I want to impress on people is like when you trade 0DT, you're trying to play probabilities. And what you're doing here is you've just randomly filtered out the probability of this bigger $900 loss by putting an SMA filter on it and by choosing a specific time. That's all you've done. So you've just hidden the big loss. This is a negatively skewed tail trade, and you're playing the probabilities in being mechanically back testing it by basically filtering out the left tail. This is, hey, I have this indicator that gets me out of the 2025 tariffs in hindsight. That's essentially what you did.
Yeah, makes total sense. I mean, this is kind of the thing that's the hard thing with 0 day, and the joy of 0 day is you see people all the time kind of add a bunch of filters and they say, oh, this works great. But with 0 day, and particularly the type of credit selling, it's math. And so what you want to do is you want to try to, like he's saying, actually take all the filters out. You really want to try to find a trade that just works, at times. Like that's the first kind of filter, is the time, and does it work? And can you do it again? And does different times work? And your goal is to get as many occurrences as you can, because it just builds confidence, And so DCs are a little bit different, in my mind, although the mechanics kind of stay the same. But with 0 day, especially, I mean, Mark, would you say like it's a math game? You need the occurrences because you need to see what the max loss is, and you need to be able to go from there.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's logic. So if you have a negatively skewed trade similar to that trade that has potentially a loss, it's 10 times bigger than its average expectancy. Like, you don't have to run that trade 5 times in a day, because it really has to move. And the day it moves, I promise you, like all 5 will lose just as much. So on a trade like that, I mean, once or twice a day would be more than enough. Whereas like if you were using a trade with a 1x stop, obviously you need a lot of occurrences on that, because you're losing like basically 50% of the time. So you kind of need to think of how does this trade make money? Like, that trade doesn't make money, and like it doesn't use an exit mechanic, and it's really capital efficient. So like if that trade had a 30% PCR, you're on average using like $1,000 of buying power, and you make $50. So 0.5% on your money per day return is like, 5% on your money, because it's $50 out of 1,000. Like, if that even remotely worked, every hedge fund on earth would leverage that with like $1 billion, because you need no exit liquidity, and you could just enter SPX. So yeah, like, of course, like, where's your risk? Where's the risk premium in a no stop trade? And what's your edge? Your edge is that you've identified that 1 to 2 day trend is above the 4 day. Only at 145 it works. It's like, it makes no sense. Like, tell me why Palantir is going to be the next great company. It's just like, there's no logic behind why that really makes sense. It's just cheap leverage. So like, I did a backtest the other day where I compared Palantir to SPY since Palantir went public. Best performing stock by far in the index is Palantir. Sharp of S&P is 0.79. Sharp of Palantir is 0.82 over that case. Granted, so it's like Palantir is just cheap leverage to S&P. It's really not that different from anything. And the correlation is like 0.8. It moves a lot more, and it is a much better position to take than borrowing money to own S&P, because borrowing money to own S&P obviously has a cost of borrow.
Yeah.
But that is kind of what that trade is. It's like, we can talk stories about why it works and like lie to ourselves, but if it's going to work, it's going to work at other times. If it's going to work, it's going to work with the 4 day versus the 8 day. It's going to work on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Like, kind of what I like to say is like, just where are we going to draw the line on it? Like, why don't we only trade Fridays when the VIX is between 14 and 17 with a floating entry time between 145 and 153? And then we'll update that the next month to have a different premium target, because we got blown out on a delta, and et cetera, and et cetera. So like, the way I view my investment philosophy is like, I would rather have something conservative that I can throw a bunch of leverage on than have something that's like a story of a home run hit that, probably isn't true.
Makes total sense. Well, Mark, I know you have a hard stop, so we're going to run, but we'll be back next week. We'll look at more tests, 2 or 3 more tests next week. Just kind of go through the list. If people want to reach out, Mark, how can they find out more about you?
Yeah, I mean, like, I got a YouTube channel now, Multi-Strat Mark, but I would say like, I think this live stream is like, just comment in the chatter channel for what this is. And that's generally the best spot. But we'll kind of go through what we're looking for with what we're trading these. But generally, now we know what we want to look for. We want to see something robust through time, like calendars several times a day. And then we can work a little more with what that is to kind of improve it.
Yep, and go in the Discord. Fix My Backtest has its own channel, and you can put your tests in there, and we will eventually get to them. No promises. We're going to work through methodically, but we will try to get to all of them. So, Mark, have a great